Hello everyone, welcome to the January 2021 koha-US System Administration SIG meeting. I'm Lisette Scheer. I'm the new SIG leader. Ed had to step down because he had a conflict. I put an agenda in the chat. Some of it is stuff I think we've talked a little about 2005 updates already because a lot of us did update previously. But I know that some people haven't yet, so I wanted to put that on again. Some report stuff, and we'll see if we can find out how Daniel's Find Free solution from the last meeting went. I don't see him here yet, but at the very least, this will remind me to contact him and ask so we can talk about it at our next meeting, or ask him to mail it out to the list if he's got any updates. And then also, if there's anything else that people want to talk about, please let me know. So first up, 2005 updates. Who has or hasn't updated? I know I updated like in November, and Bob updated because we were talking about it. And Barbara, I think you've updated. Jason hasn't yet. Do you guys have a date?
I don't have a date. I haven't asked for it yet. I know that George said that they're updating in February, so.
Oh, okay, so it got pushed further back, maybe.
They usually update later though, because he likes to train before.
That's true.
They update, so I don't know for sure when ours is.
Okay. Well, and I know they're still working on moving. Like we're getting moved into the new server, private cloud server space today. Todd told me, so they're still working on that, and they might be trying to finish that up first before they do more updates. Brenda said Washoe has not yet updated. Do you guys have a date yet? No date yet. Okay. So unless in that case, maybe since it might be even next meeting before most people are updating. Other people who have updated, is there anything new that you've discovered to watch out for since our last meeting?
I wasn't at the last meeting, but our biggest issue was multi-branch holds. So that may not affect everybody. And we have a particularly large amount of libraries, even though our libraries are small. But the more libraries you have, the more complications happened. So some of those were bugs that were already fixed, so might not affect you whatsoever. But the most recent issue we were having was what it does is it verifies whether or not it verifies pickup locations, and it was listing pickup locations that were valid as far as the system goes, but not actually where patrons, what their libraries are. And we're all over the state of Colorado. So if you live on the Western Slope and you have a pickup location on the Eastern Plains, then that doesn't really help. So you do not get what you're seeking. And you think you're going to get it as a patron, and then it shows up at a completely different branch that then you can't get it from. And then you actually can't, it will never show up at your branch. So bit of a problem, but our solution there was just to use some jQuery to warn staff, because we don't do set different pickup locations for patron placeholds. So there's a warning for staff that pops up that says, hey, your pickup location is different than your library. And that seems to have worked effectively in warning them so they know this may look like you can place a hold on something, but you really can't.
Yeah, and we ended up, because we had a similar problem, we ended up turning on the local holds groups because we have pickup locations turned off on the OPAC side, and it was still setting pickup locations if the only items available were in groups that we weren't transferring to. It would just set the pickup location to the first group alphabetically that library was transferring to. So like if only Lewiston School District is transferring within the school district, but not to the rest of the consortium right now. And because they can't, we have like quarantine guidelines for stuff that's going, if you're receiving stuff from the consortium, you have to quarantine it for at least 3 days, and they don't have the space to do it. So they're just doing within themselves for right now. And so people would place holds on bib level holds on copies on items that only school districts had, and it would let them, but it would place it all to like an elementary school for the pickup location, which like only the students and staff there can pick up the holds there. So it was not great. So we turned on local holds groups, but the holds queue doesn't know how to handle local holds groups, it turns out. So that's been fun. Bug 27068. It's currently in failed QA. And we finally got a report together that mostly works. Nick helped us with a report that's like basically the logic the hold queue uses. And then I added in, we have like a hold group, a library group for everyone who's open. And so I put in like a group selector. So as long as the patron's home library is in the open group for everyone who's open, or Lewiston School District for them, and the branch is the new select your pickup branch, and gives you that report. So that's been helpful. We had been using the holds to pull list because that works, but also has a bunch of problems. Especially because everybody catalogs things a little bit differently. So like it would show all the different call numbers, even if we were only pulling the Moscow copy. So multi-branch systems, things to watch out for. Though there hadn't been any movement on that bug for a while because they didn't put a test plan in. And the person who signed it off knew what it needed to happen, but the person who went to do QA was like, I don't even know what's going on here. And nobody wrote a test plan and nobody wrote a test plan. So then I wrote a test plan. I was like, I know what the problem is that this bug is trying to solve. And, the developers can tell me if we're missing a step in here. And then they were able to QA it finally and fail it. But it's moving. It's not just stuck in limbo, which it was for like a month. So that's an improvement. And yeah, that's been our biggest thing with 2005. We have a meeting this week where we're going to talk about some of the improvements because we were like waiting to get our test server, and then a bunch of people were gone for the holidays. So this has been like our first systems meeting since we had the test server on our consortium systems group on Thursday. And then we're going to look at some more new features that we haven't turned on yet. Anything you're excited about from the update, Bob?
It was kind of a mild update for our needs. The biggest thing that I think affects us, again, has to do with our amount of libraries, is they fixed a bug that was limiting the facets on the search to 10. And what that has allowed us to do with some jQuery is if you hit the show more when you do a search, we can highlight, you can limit to just your library, which before it would be, unless you were ranked in the top 10, that jQuery wouldn't pop up. But now, because it shows so many results, so libraries with 2 clicks of a button can just limit to their holdings, which is the type of thing they want to do quite a bit, and we weren't able to offer previously. So that's probably the biggest thing that I think we like. And then I'm trying to think, we've had it since November, so I'm trying to think back to what all the little things were. I mean, there was like an improvement with like book clubs and how that works, stuff like that, but that wasn't as big of a game changer for us.
Yeah. Would you be willing to share your jQuery for that facets thing?
Yes. How would you like me to share that out?
Do you want to just send it to the list? Or if you send it to me, I could put it in the notes here and send it out to the
Yeah,
list.
let's do it that way. Okay. Yeah, I'll go dig it up right now.
Thanks. Okay. Yeah, the facets thing was a big deal for us because, again, we have a lot of small libraries. It's not something I think about much because I'm at the library that has the most hold-ins. So we always show up. If we have a copy, we're almost certainly going to be in the facets because we might not have the most. No, I think we do have the most hold-ins at our branch, or very close to it, top 2 at least. So so I had forgot about that, but I know my branch managers were very happy because they are much smaller libraries and weren't showing up, and we're frustrated by that. On the other hand, all of them got much better at advanced searching because they would go in and use the advanced search because they could set their library there. And a bunch of people were like, oh, I didn't know you could do these things in the advanced search. And I'm like, good, learn things, search better. So I think unless anyone has something else for 2005 updates, we can move on to reports. Anyone have any exciting reports that they're working on or cool things that they figured out recently? All my report work has been going into that darn holds list. That took forever to get to work because then, oh, and it still shows item level holds. If there's an item level hold, which is a problem we had with the holds to pull queue. If there's an item level hold at a different branch, but we have a copy, it shows up on the list like it's an item level hold for our copy. Yeah. So that's like the one last thing that we have with that report. But I think at this point, we've just kind of told people like, this is just how it's going to be for now. It does have, so the holds to pull queue has a nice thing that our old report didn't have, which is, let's see. If there is a item level hold, it'll show the specific item and the barcode. And if there's not an item level hold, it just says next available. Which, as people pulling the holds when there's multiple copies, it's really helpful to know, like, oh, I can grab the one that looks nicer or whatever off the shelf instead of the specific one, or like, oh no, I do need that specific barcode. So that's something I've heard back, which was just kind of a cool thing that the holds to pull report does. And so when Nick built the base of this report off the holds to pull logic, he put that in. And that's definitely going back in our other report once the bug I talked about earlier is functional. So this caused so many tables. There's like 12 tables in this report because it's got the reserves and the library groups and items and biblios and biblio items and borrowers, and circulation rules for some reason. I don't know why that part's in there, but I'm not taking it out because Nick put it there. It seems like maybe it's important.
So I guess I have a question. Does anybody have a good report to identify how much money was collected on a certain, I'll say authorized value. So say like collection code. So like I want to know how much money came in on fines for DVDs last year. Does anybody have a good report for that? I looked at the wiki and I didn't see anything, and I've been trying to cobble it together, but haven't had much luck.
Off the top of my head, the closest thing I can think of was we did based on like patron accounts, but not based on.
Yeah, it seems to not work great when I try to tie in the items because the item data isn't always present in the account lines.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of gaps, which I might not be able to get around anyways.
Yeah, I don't think you can solve that problem. If it's just
Yeah.
if it's just not there, then
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything that's specific to. There's like fees on items owned by a branch, but that information is usually part of the account lines. Well, I'll put it in the minutes and maybe someone who sees them will have an idea.
Be good.
Does anyone use PayPal and have any good reports? The only one in the library is pretty basic, and I haven't been able to get it to work. Because like we'd love to know if there's, and maybe this is kind of similar to Jason's thing, if there's a branch code, what branch, like in the last month, how much came in PayPal payments from, Moscow libraries, and preferably also a row for anything else that came in that didn't have a library attached with it, because we're just having that go into our like Valnet PayPal account to pay for like extra overdrive books and stuff if it's not attached to a library.
Yeah, I don't use PayPal. It looks, so I see this report from Micah in the wiki. Like if the patron pays with PayPal on the OPAC, then the transacting library would be the patron's home library, right? So
Yeah.
if you pulled the patron's branch code into the report.
But what if there was like a lost item that wasn't that home library, but was the home library?
Oh, yeah, that's a whole nother report that I've been trying to figure out too. That's not working. I have one, I've had the request multiple times to come up with a report to figure out fines that were collected at one library that are owed to another library. Because we go off we go off where the checkout took place. And that's not recorded in the fines either.
Oh yeah.
So it's kind of a nightmare to try and hook those up. We do have a development out to add that to the account lines, which is hopefully nearing completion, so that you can just run reports on that. But right now it's like connecting things up with fines just doesn't work for me right now.
Well, and again, when we send this out, maybe someone will see the link or see the notes and have an idea. Holly said we've had a few requests for reports on patron permissions, and creating them was a bit more complicated. Does anyone have experience creating reports related to patron permissions? No, but there are some in my system. So let me see. We have, let's see. We have all staff with permissions. Oh, well, actually, maybe I did edit one of those because this one's me. Let me just run this and see what this looks like real quick. Okay, so this one, here, let me share my screen. This one is all staff with permissions, and it does give like a different, like these are the same borrower, I think. Yeah, so then there's like multiple lines because they have multiple things. Though I think that with some of the other reports that I've seen, there's ways where you can say like for each distinct one and concat that into one and then group it by the borrower number. What you could do, and this description, we used to have one that just had the flags, which was, the flags aren't helpful. But then we have like the descriptions now, so we can see that. Also, I think it's interesting, like I don't think Linda needs to be able to manage purchase suggestions. But I think when that was added, they must have just had the permission to. And actually, maybe I'll. What report is this? 952. Oh, dang it. I always do that wrong. I made my own test server graphic for my test server now, and it loads a lot faster, even though it's also hosted on GitHub. I don't know what was going on last time.
George probably put some code in there to slow it down when you used his or something.
I don't know if he knew it. I'd only had it on there for like a week just because I hadn't had time to make a new one yet. But we wanted to make sure there was something. I'm just going to mess this up in the staff client because then if we like group concat those, let's see. Usually I do this all on 2 screens, but my remote desktop's all on this one screen, so I have to keep jumping back and forth. I guess, what are you trying to do with your report? Now I lost my chat window. Where'd that go? Cool. Yeah, I can send this out, this one out with the minutes as well. And if I figure out how to make it so there's not a separate line for each group, I will do that also.
Mine looks way different, and I don't know where I got this report from. I think it might have been this permissions check report from the wiki. It's really complex looking, but it comes out different. I can show you.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So it goes through like each category and says whether it's on or off. And then if there's a subcategory, it tells which ones are checked. And I don't think it's complete anymore because I think you have to add each section into it when they add new permissions. And like I said, I think it started as this report maybe that Christopher posted.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what I use.
We use a batch patrons permission modifier plugin. So that way you can just set permissions to different profiles and have that automatically update, which is really helpful if you need to update a bunch of permissions to either add or take away something all at once. Then all you have to do is one place and then you run the tool again and it automatically updates.
Is that the plugin that Holly just linked in the chat? The users with permissions plugin? Is it different?
Perhaps. It's called Batch Patron Permissions Modifier is what the name is on mine. Yeah, I think it is different.
Yeah, I see it here. That's a Bywater plugin. I'll post a link there. Yeah, I'm not sure about the one that Holly linked though.
Oh, that batch permissions modifier is pretty nice.
It's really helpful when there's upgrades and there's new things that maybe you don't want someone to have or a lot of people to have all at once. You can just update that and run it and no big deal.
Mm-hmm. And I got, let's see, Bob, I got your email with the jQuery. Thank you. So I'll add that to the minutes that we send out. I hate pasting code into Google Docs because it just gets real weird. So I will format it later and not during the meeting and send it out. And I'll put my patron permissions report into well, my Concat distinct just got mostly weird, except for like everybody except for 2 people apparently have module level permissions. One is super librarian, and one person has a whole bunch of things listed. So I'll play around more with that and see if I can get it to not show, multiple lines for every patron before I send that out. Let's see. Yeah, December. Hopefully Daniel will see this, and I might also ask him separately if he can share how that went for him. I don't. Brenda, do you remember? Or wait, was Brenda who asked about it? Yes. Do you remember what his solution was? Because I don't right now. I mean, I can go look at the video later too.
I think it had something to do with grace periods or something. Yeah, grace periods for
grace
going
periods.
fancy.
To make it, yeah. That makes sense. Use the grace period for frame free. Yeah, that'd be interesting to find out if / how that worked for sure. Huh. Apparently our phones are just ringing indefinitely and not going to extensions or voicemails ever. So that's fun.
I'd be really sad about that.
Well, I found out from someone who was trying to call in sick, and we have like a hotline voice box set up that people can call in sick, and then all the managers get a voicemail in their email about it. And he just messaged me on Slack and was like, "Hey, just so you know, all the phones are ringing and never going to voicemail." One time our phone was down for like 3 days, and it was the least stressful circ desk time I ever worked. So, okay. Did anyone have any other system administration things they'd like to talk about this week?
So I have another report I guess I can share. A cool thing I figured out how to do a long time ago and then never posted to the wiki.
Sure.
So I'll share my screen again. So on the reports, you can render images.
Oh.
And there was a report on the wiki that normalized ISBN either to 13 or 10. I don't remember which. So I used that report and then I kind of reverse engineered it so that I could I think it was to 13 and I reverse engineered it to do a 10, which is the ISBN that Amazon uses to generate their image URL. So the 10-digit ISBN is there, and then it's in the middle of the URL there. So you can take your ISBN from Koha, concatenate it into Amazon's URL, and then you can also render that URL into an image in the report. I don't remember what I was going to use this for. Maybe like promoting lists or something. But yeah, all of these are images from Amazon. These are images from my catalog. So I have it set up so that it kind of trickles through. So like if I have a local image, it takes that. If I don't, then it goes for the Amazon image. And if I don't have that, then it goes to this default no image.
Your default no image looks way nicer than our default no image.
Yeah, I made that, I think, because it's hosted on my Dropbox.
I didn't even think about that you could do that. But yeah, that totally.
That seems like that would be helpful to combine with like a custom holds to pull report, so that if you're out there, you know, you've got an idea of what you're looking for, what it looks like.
Yeah, you could add cover images. Yeah, that could be useful. I think I was leaning towards using it for public list advertising type things, like widgets and things like that. Yeah, because I'm pulling it from actual lists. I would have to go back in history to figure out why why I did this, but it was cool, so I thought I would share. And I may have uses for it in the future.
Is it on the wiki?
No, I never got it to the wiki. I will try my hardest. I can't share it with Lisette, so she can add it to the notes too. It does have a little bit of like, obviously this is the fallback image, or this is the image from my site because it's got the seek and find, and then this is the fallback image because that's the Dropbox link. So that stuff would need changed out. And then you could always set it to something other than a list. But right now they're pulling from lists.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I can give it to Lisette at least, and it can go in the notes.
Sounds good.
We're working on our overdue 3 print notices and turning them into template toolkit. And so we've got all the fields and everything correctly, but the formatting is giving us trouble. Lucas had me put the code in the overdues slip notice so that I could test it and bring up a patron and use the print overdues and see what it would look like. And when I do that, it looks fabulous. It's exactly what we want. Everything's spaced right. Everything's the right size, you know, everything. But when it prints, it doesn't print that way. So he said that he thinks there's some conflict between the, I think it's like gather notices PL that comes into play when the cron job runs to pull what notices to print. Anyway, we're struggling with that. And on the template toolkit Koha example site, it seemed like most everything was like hold slips and that kind of thing. I couldn't find much about, you know, actually printing overdues where something else comes into play. I didn't know if anybody else has experimented with any of that.
We haven't yet. We've mostly been updating like our hold slip. I'm sure you saw my examples on there.
Mm-hmm.
First with making it work for self-service holds, which we switched to when we reopened in June. And then because of the way we privatize, you know, made them private for patron, you know, not having patron information out there, it made it very difficult for staff holds for those to get caught. And so then I updated a bunch of stuff there. So if it's, you know, certain borrower numbers, it'll print out differently. And if it has a staff login, it'll print out a staff hold with the first name instead of the weird mishmash that we have for our patron self-serve holds.
Out of curiosity, what are you shelving your patron self-serve holds under? Their username or their last name?
First two letters of their last name, first two letters of their first name, last 7 digits of their barcode, because Lucas was on vacation and I couldn't figure out how to make it only do the last 4, but I could figure out how to take out the part that's the same for everybody at the beginning. And then we never changed it because now people are used to it. Yeah, he was on vacation for like 3 weeks in June, July, like end of June, start of July, and they decided to open up kind of abruptly. And so I ended up just kind of figuring it out. I do need to talk to him though, because the way that I did it, I think, is not the right way. If there's a 3-letter first or last name, it shows the whole thing. So like we had someone yesterday whose first name was Ron, like R-O-N, and the whole first name shows up instead of R-O. And it happens with 3-digit last names too, which we have a few of those. So we need to update that part, because I think I was using like a trim or something, but then I think there's a different way to do it that puts a hard limit on, even if there's only 3. And we have, because we have like first 2 digits of the last name, comma, first 2 digits of the first name, space. And I think what it does is it replaces the comma or the space if there's only 3 digits in the name in that field. So that's our problem there. And then we don't have like any hold information, or it might have the barcode of the book. And on phone, the patron holds, because we still have some of those that we call them. And it does print out their first name and their phone number and our little phone the patron instructions on the bottom, but then we tear it off after we call them. So when we shelve it, it goes on. But that's just so that like we can contact them, and then it's not going out for as much patron security as we can. And that's on the, it's all template toolkit, and it's on the template toolkit slips wiki page. And I'll update it if I remember to actually talk to Lucas, because what happens is about once a week someone says, oh, it's still doing that thing, and I go, yeah, I got to talk to Lucas about that, and then I forget, because they always talk to me when I'm at the desk, and I'm like, that's the worst place to tell me things.
Can you send me the URL for that wiki? I don't think I have it.
Yeah.
Because we're kind of in a hybrid of HTML template toolkit, depending on which slip or email.
Yeah,
and right now we're looking, so when we moved from Sierra to Koha, all of our usernames got populated in a default pattern. So we're working with Lucas to print either the chosen username by like not that doesn't follow that default, or if the default is there, the default format is there, use the last name, first name. Because it's just it's just been a nightmare. So
yeah.
And we're getting ready to open up 2 self-service branches.
Oh yeah.
Probably in the next month or 2. Right now it's staff handing out holds.
Okay, so that was the like how to do it. Here's the notices that actually use it, which might just be lower down the same page.
Okay,
it's
you.
mostly hold slips. There's an issue slip that uses only template toolkit. Payment, account payment.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
Yeah. No problem. Some of them are really long because you have to like, on ours, we have our, first we have the like branch transfer slip if there's a branch hold. And then because the slips always print out really short, there's, you know, like this many LIs just to print something to make it print out longer. And then we have like, we have a card that if staff is checking something out to a patron and notices damage, we'll place a hold on that card so with a note, so the patron can still check it out, but then we know to like send it to tech for loose pages or whatever. Usually if it's loose pages, we try to just get that fixed. But if there's like a small tear on a page or something, or call number sticker starting to fall off, and so then we have like a whole section with that with a bunch of list items at the end, and so it looks really long, but it's mostly just because there's lots of list items to make sure that it prints out properly. So,
And just a quick question. Sorry, I'm late. We had a koha meeting with Bywater right before this one. So we're meeting at 11 now, Eastern time?
yes.
Okay.
There was Ed needed to not be the SIG leader anymore because he had a conflict. And I said I could do it, but only if we moved the time, because I kept having to leave half an hour into the meeting because I had a consortium meeting that's that week. Or same, today at 9:30 Pacific. So this seemed to work for people. The 8 Pacific, 11 Eastern. And that's what's up on the calendar now too.
Okay.
Next time I'm going to try to send out an agenda in advance. I made this one after I joined the meeting. Oh yeah, there's an agenda for anyone who joined later. I just put it back in the chat. And I'm going to add in like jQuery and reports that we talked about at the bottom. It'll be easier to not try to format it in the table. So I'll just do it like on a second page. And let's see. So did you recently migrate to Koha, Rebecca?
We did it in June.
Oh, in June. Okay.
Yeah, so we're just about to have our first upgrade tomorrow to 2005.
Oh, nice.
Because we kind of came through on like a Frankenstein kind of in between levels. So this is going to be our first full upgrade tomorrow night.
Nice.
We haven't jumped yet, so it's coming.
It's coming.
Anything to worry about?
Do you have multi-branch? I know you're setting up some self-serve holds, but do you have multiple libraries in your system?
Yeah, we have 9 locations.
So we did run into some problems with multi-branch libraries and holds, but most of our problems were because we're not letting patrons pick their pickup location, and a bunch of our libraries are closed for COVID, or at least closed to the consortium, even if they're letting like their patrons check out. So we had some issues with that. We have like branch transfers turned off between some libraries, but not others, and that caused some issues for us. But I think if all your branches are open and nearby to each other, you're probably fine.
Yeah, luckily we don't have a consortia, so it's just multiple locations, and only one of them is open for pickup. So we've actually taken out hold pickup locations except for the one branch that's open.
And
so they can't pick any other branch.
But everyone's doing transfers to that branch.
Right.
Cool. Then you should be fine, I think.
Okay. Thanks for the warning.
So, because yeah, Bob and I both had problems where it would be trying to have the patron pick up at a place they couldn't pick up because they were the only ones who had copies. But I think some of that was because of some branches being closed and others not, and open to their patrons. So
yeah, with 9 branches and similar roles, that shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think unless anyone has anything else for this meeting, we're probably ready to wrap it up. A few minutes early. And I'll try to get these notes sent out today, but I have lots of meetings, so it might be like tomorrow after the conference meeting that's maybe after the general meeting for our Koha-thon conference. I think we're having a meeting for that. So after that meeting, I'll try and get this sent out if I can't get it done today between meetings. So, okay. And if you ever have anything you want to add to the agenda between meetings, you can just email me or email the list, and then I'll start an agenda then if I don't already have one. So if you think of, a report that you're working on that you could use some help with, or you did a cool thing with a report, or have something weird come up, or when you figure out your template toolkit things, you know, you could be like, hey, I have a cool template toolkit thing to share, or whatever. And then I'll add it to the agenda. And our next meeting will be February 9th at 8 Pacific, 11 Eastern. Okay, I'm gonna stop the recording now. Thanks everyone for coming.